Kaya. My story is it's a journey that for me involves sadness, grief, anger and failure. It started for me back in September 2000 to get a phone call from my brother saying that he was back home in our little country town in Pingelly, and I wasn't home at the time. I was away in Harvey. I started panicking. I knew in my heart the reason why he was home. So I rang up all family to let them know that he was home and not to take their eyes off him, because I knew that at this instant that he was home to end his life. He kept ringing me all day and just asking me where I was, and I was telling him I'm on my way, I'm travelling, and kept ringing family to keep an eye on him. And at the end of the day, I got there and he was missing, and no one knew where he was. We were all in this big rush to search all over our country town to find him, and it was like first time all our family had come together since we had lost our mum in 1994. So to me, death was no stranger, losing both parents at an early age and losing loved ones. But this was different, and this was it was urgent, and we just wanted to find him. We searched all morning, all night. No one saw him. So in the afternoon, the place where I was dropped off to search through the bushes there, not far from our local cemetery, was where I came upon him, and he had passed. He had taken his life, and the emotions that went through me right then was I was angry, and because he could have waited for me, and I failed him, and at this instant to tell my family that he was gone, and to see them fall apart and in front of me before my eyes, and I had to lock up everything inside me to stay strong for them. But I remember him telling me about a black briefcase that he had, and he told me about it in 1994, the year we lost our mum, and he gave me the combination to it, and I remembered it, and I remember telling my brothers to come down to his home here in Perth and to find this briefcase for me. And they found it and brought it back to me in Pingelly, and in it was his suicide note, his funeral arrangements, and his diary, where he'd written everything what he was going through. And I came across words that I would have never heard of before, like bipolar, depression, and all the stuff that he was going through. And he'd written it all down, and we as Noongar families, we thought we were that close that we could talk to each other, and there were no secrets in our families. But to go through that and read that, he did have this other side to him, and he hid it from us, and the grief overcame me, where I found myself in that dark place too, where in 2007 I didn't want to live anymore myself. So I tried to end my life, and that I survived. And I'm here telling my story. And it was not till 2009, after losing another family member who was our baby sister, that I realised that if I didn't stop now, because I just went to hitting the drink and the drugs really heavy, and if I didn't stop now, I'm not going to be here. So it was a early morning where I woke up and realised that I didn't want to be this person anymore. And so that day I made the choice to give up everything. I gave up the drugs like a few years before, got bored with it. And so I used alcohol to help me with cover all the emotions that I was going through. And it was really full on. And so to give that up was the first thing I really had to do. And the second thing was to move away I didn't move far, I just moved like 40-something k's down the road, but it was a moment that changed my life. So in 2011 I went to like a workshop. I got invited to a workshop through my job network providers, Max Employment Mob, and the talk happened to be about suicides, where there was a group going around to our communities and employing Indigenous peoples from their communities to work in our communities to talk to our families and our mob about suicides. So it was the first time I got to say I lost my brother to suicide. I tried to take my life, and that, like, I had all that inside me for 10 years, and to get it out there and to be able to share it in a group of people who were going through similar stuff that I was going through. So to get to share that, and it was like, I finally said it, and then I got to tell my story, and we were employed there and then that day to take the message out to all our communities, because where I come from, there have been a lot of suicides in our towns out that way, up Narrogin and Pingelly, Wagen, Katanning, just everywhere. Up my hometown where I was born in Moora, a lot was happening up there, so I got to go back there to have that talk and to employ people. Unfortunately, our funding ran out for all us mob out there. We were called the Wheatboard Aboriginal. We worked for One Life Suicide Prevention, but we still all care for our communities, and we were all trained to take care, to be gatekeepers in our communities. And then I healed in my art and my mind to release all these emotions and get my story out there, but I was still missing a part of my healing, and this is where my doll Bibbulyock comes into my healing story. She is named Bibbulyock, which is paperback in our Noongar language. I made her in Moora. She is where my story begins. I had the privilege to be a part of Community Arts Network, where we went back to Moora to do doll making up there. They were already doing doll making in Narrogin, but I had no connection there. The first 2 doll workshops I went to, I was just like, I don't want to do this, and just walked out. So I got 2 unfinished dolls somewhere in my house from Narrogin. Yeah, so, and the reason why my story didn't start there, my story began in Moora on Uwadwudja, which is Moora country. The reason why she was so important, and this story is so important, is because it healed my spirit. I found my connection, I found a place where I belonged and where I came from, and that was not only going back home to where I was born, but also my journey of going back and finding out who I am and who I belong to, where I come from, and my connections where I can go back to my old peoples now, right back to their language names, and that's on both my mum and dad's sides, and back to my language, back to my country and back to my culture. So she's played a big part of that, and where she's been places both of us have where we never dreamed of. She went to Queensland, I went to Sydney, Tamworth, Walgett. She was pretty famous. I'm afraid she was more famous than me. Yeah, so, but she carries my story, and I still get to do the doll making in communities today, and the stories, we call them, our dolls, we call them yarning dolls, our story dolls, our healing dolls. So to have that idea out there that a doll can, anyone can make a doll, but to put your story to it and it releases these emotions and stories that we unlock them through the doll making. So I find that pretty amazing. And the doll making, it's not only for us yogis, for the women. We get men and we get young boys telling their stories through the dolls, because they can represent you, they can represent someone you've lost, or just a story. Everybody, each and every one of us has a connection to something and to somebody. So I'm enjoying my journey where I am now. I'm still on it, and I'm still out in my community, and I'm still out there doing dolls and yarning with people and listening to all such amazing stories that people have put into their dolls, and to come up and tell you that and to thank you for sharing the doll making with them and for them to tell their stories through their dolls. So yeah, it's been amazing, and I'd like to thank you all for being here today to hear my story and to be on this journey with me.